Now, once you've gotten that statement of work, it's always good that when you sit down with the customer that you verify and clarify the statement of work. This is where you sit down and you go over every term and every phase in the distance education, distance learning arena. Many contracts will say we want a active interactivity level. Well, I'm not sure what active means. I know the 5 levels, and so when you go back and you ask them, at which level do you need the interactivity, the answer is usually, well, I'm not sure what you're talking about. So it's real hard to deliver a product if you don't clarify the terms such as interactivity, blended, multimedia, hands-on, student-centered. You'll find out that many times as distance education project managers, we are going to have to lead the customer in helping them decide what it is they want within the timeline and the budget. To me, that's almost critical. You can help yourself and you can help your customer by steering them in the right direction. Don't allow them to have more than one point of contact. What I find out usually happens is that if you have multiple layers in the communications chain, you're always getting different directions. If you talk to individual 1 today and individual 2 tomorrow and individual 3 the next day, it really complicates the process. I also like establishing an approving committee. Not only am I going to have my central point of contact, but I want all the stakeholders involved. I want to know that when I take that distance education project back as a finished product, that I don't have 5 and 6 people going, well, that's not what I thought it would be. Gosh, Jack, what's wrong? So I usually develop what's called an approving committee, and that has worked very well for me. I'll let them argue among themselves instead of arguing with me, and that works well for distance education. You'll find out that a lot of people enter into distance education projects and not understand the terms, therefore the clarity is not there. So always do that. And finally, after you meet the customer, make sure that you can match that statement of work to intent. This may be your first place to modify the contract. It may be that you have to sit down right now and modify, depending on if they want activity levels up in the 4th region or even the 5th region. You're going to have more time, you're going to have more money. And a lot of times you can talk them into that. From there, I usually sit down with my team and I'll talk about a technology plan. Do I have a clear mission and a vision of what it is I need to do? Have they provided us a current assessment, or are we going to have to go out and get that? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. To me, that's a critical point. Is the expected design clear? Are there some designs we can improve the customer's intent on? If so, we can write that in. Resources, I need to know up front. Money, time, what's going to happen. Do I have the right people? When I get ready to implement it, are the students, do they have what they need? Are they at the right level? And of course, evaluation. How will I evaluate the objectives? I normally move from there right into what I call a current assessment. If you'll see on your slide in your handout, what's real important is I find out that usually in a project, your point of contact or your manager will normally tell you what they feel the assessment is for the students or the field. I found out that I usually need to go out and sample that, and that's part of my assure process that we'll get into. So do a good assessment. I need to go out and talk to the people that are involved to find out actually where they are, at what level, and what is they expect. Many times there's a disconnect to what the project is to what the customer or the student thinks they're going to receive. And that can destroy a project, can destroy the receptance of that project. Make sure my direction and objectives are correct. I get all the stakeholders involved, and then I take all that back to the technology committee to make sure that we're all on the same sheet of music. I do use a planning process, and although it says assure, My first letter is actually B. I throw budget right at the very top because in our world of project management, especially in the government, and I'm not sure if it's that way in academia, I've only worked on a few projects and the money was always there, budget really drives what we can do. So I'll use the Assure in analyzing the learners and stating the objectives and working out my methods and materials and utilizing them, and look at participation and evaluate and revise all of that. And the way I move into that, I change the first A. I don't rely on the analysis of the people providing me the project. I normally go out and sample the audience myself. My last project, which is with a large government agency, they wanted a training program to correct performance deficiencies in 3,000 operators worldwide. They sat down and gave me a list of what they said were the problems. I accepted that, but then I spent 3 months on the road traveling around the country finding out what the real problems were, and it was quite different. Had I used their analysis, we'd have probably developed the wrong training program. As it is now, everything's going quite well and we're meeting our objectives. So in that research, I make sure that I sample the audience. Through that, I can develop the critical task lists and objectives to meet what it is that audience needs, and then I can match the evaluation to check on those objectives. And then from that, based on money, time, and materials, I can select the media or mediums I'm going to use to do that.